We are here. Why are we here, Steve?
We're here. This is our first, our introduction to our new podcast to discuss real estate, restaurants, and unfortunately, at this point, the pandemic.
Yeah.
How does it affect us?
Women's shoes. Also.
Women's shoes. Width.
Yeah.
Don't forget about the width.
Yeah.
That's what you need to focus
Yeah.
on.
So on a serious note, so we have a company that sells buildings and leases property, and we have an arm of that company that focuses on hospitality and restaurants, which has been pre-pandemic a very hot market, and has unfortunately created some volatility due to the pandemic, has created some opportunity for us. It's just shifted the market quite a bit. So those old ways of thinking about things and going about business have changed. And so we're just going to talk a little bit about that. And hopefully this enlightens some folks, both tenants and landlords and restaurant owners, and
maybe somebody who's never even thought about it before.
Yeah.
Maybe somebody who would like to invest in an opportunity or a new concept as an operator.
Yeah. So tell I guess everyone, the four people that are going to listen to this. Mom, hi.
There could be more. You never know.
No. Tell them a little bit about yourself and your background and what brought you to this table today.
Sure. Yeah. So kind of been all over the place, but since graduating from school in 2004, about 2 weeks after I graduated college, I was actually on a one-way flight to the Big Island of Hawaii, and that was really where I got my introduction into hospitality. It's kind of a random story, but an ex-girlfriend's uncle purchased a home for us and gave us a car and the whole bit, and we went out there, and it was almost 7 years. Quite an experience right out of school in my 20s. But I got an opportunity to work for the Four Seasons out there, so the training was top notch. It was Hollywood's playground, so everybody was there to be a guest. Jim Carrey would come to our employee pizza parties. You name it, they were walking around. Julia Roberts. I mean, they were the real deal. Michael Dell's the owner. Bill Gates owns 70% of Four Seasons stock. So we really got to see some big people and big names, and that was my first introduction to hospitality, taking care of others, and that's what kind of brought me here today, is that focus of taking care of other people and making sure that whether it's a stay or a restaurant or interaction on the street, that's really has begun my professional career, as just wanting to take care of others. And that's what's, I feel, separated me a little bit. But going from there to the Royal Kona Resort in Kona, Hawaii, as well as a hospitality food and beverage manager. Unfortunately, that time ended, and I came back to the East Coast in Connecticut, where I was born and raised, and even got some opportunity at Mohegan Sun at the casino to continue as a food and beverage operator, to help and focus, what I've learned and bring it to a different area. And real estate's been something I've always been interested in. So to be able to kind of bring the two together and marry those, I was in Manhattan doing commercial real estate for Marcus & Millichap for a few years, and started to really get my feet under me. Went into the commercial, residential, and
Sorry about that.
that's okay. I'm used to it.
Yeah.
And brought me here between the residential in Stamford and commercial in Manhattan. I was able to find Scalzo and David and Tonino and Ralph, and rest is history. So,
Well,
I could talk a lot about some of the stories and some of the things I've been through out in Hawaii, and hopefully we can get to those as we get this podcast underway, as we develop our topics. But for me at least, I feel the value is about the relationship and the trust and building that versus just trying to do a transaction just to get somebody in somewhere. That's
and I think
that's not what
probably why I saw that this was a good fit from the onset. I think that your goals were similarly aligned with some of our goals, and we're not typical brokers. This is like what I wear on a day-to-day basis. We're very unique. We get deals done. We approach most of our opportunities as a buyer or tenant would approach them, because we've been buyers and tenants quite often. We were operators before becoming brokers, and still do a number of consulting jobs and still have our feet wet in the industry in a number of different restaurants. But I think that's super important, is really understanding the client and realizing that it's there's a bigger picture beyond just doing one transaction. And that's sort of the end goal, is to do a lot of transactions and to make people happy. And that's what drew me into the restaurant industry years ago, and has kept me there in one way or another. So
your approach is a little different too. You have a unique approach. You do.
Okay. Well,
you do.
Thank you. Yes.
Your thought process, the way you can really talk out with somebody, because look, every situation is so unique. And I think from my experience, seeing a lot of different brokers, they tend to try to fit every person into their mold. And, what you guys have done is you've really created molds for everybody. And so, meetings and everything that we're doing, sets up what's next, versus a lot of other people, the majority, try to stuff everybody into their mold, and you guys really you allow everybody to have their own unique style, and showcase what they do differently, and you guys approach it differently, which makes everything really just seamless.
Yeah, I think that's the hardest part about what we're doing on the tenant rep side, is really trying to explain to those clients that have had previous dealings with other brokers how we are different. And, they want us to just give them a bunch of addresses and let them go look at stuff. And that's not, it's not the way we want to work this. We want to really get to know you and what your goals are for your business. Down to everything, down to what's the business model look like? Where are you? Are you trying to change what your current operations are, adding more QSR due to pandemic or other things that are going on in the world, and trying to get the client to understand that we need to know so much about them before we can find them the right fit. And a lot of them are just not
sometimes the biggest hurdle.
Yeah, it is. It's a lot. And it's easier for me in Lower Fairfield County, where we know so many of the operators, because we don't need to go into an hour-long speech about what our backgrounds are. And they know us and they trust us. But with the new guys, as we are expanding outside of Fairfield County, definitely that has been a challenge. And then ethnically as well, it's tough to cross those lines, and get people to understand that we can do that. And it's definitely been helpful to have such a diverse group of clients and deals that we've done in the past. But yeah, it's a challenging world.
It sure is.
And it's funny because everyone wants to own a restaurant that has never owned a restaurant before. They think it's cool, sexy job.
Mm-hmm.
And then they realize very quickly that there's a lot more that goes into it. So we try to step beyond that from the onset.
Yeah, I think that extra branch, that consultation, where you can help hire staff and create menus and concepts and, really be a secondary to maybe somebody who's newer to the game.
It's unfortunate because it's a sort of a catch-22. It's such an ego-driven business that when we first meet people, they want to tell us how great they are and how they can do it better than everyone else. And then when we identify a space that would be good, the next phase is the cold feet of, can I logistically get this next location operational without sacrificing anything from my current operation? And so it's a fine line to walk where we're like, we can help you, but we can help you expand, and understand your vision and be an extra appendage so that you can achieve your goals. And in turn, the byproduct of you achieving your goals is my company is more successful and can grow. So I think that's sort of just a fine line to walk. And I think your personality brings something unique to our team, at least as far as I'm my arm of our team, and that you're much more
doesn't think so.
level-headed and
thanks.
I think that's an asset, and I think in building that trust with the new clients, I think that's something that's real important. So yeah.
I think the trust is a big piece, though. I mean, and that's something that even with this pandemic, has really heightened that kind of awareness to make sure that we are, dealing with everything the right way, because unfortunately we are all dealing with this, we're all in this together, as far as nobody knows what's next. Nobody knows if we're going into another lockdown. Nobody, so in the restaurant industry, really overall, I mean, I think trust, you have to be able to trust each other. And I think, a lot of people right now, trying to find new tenants and new clients, that's the biggest thing. What can you do for me? And I think that's where the relations can come in to show, hey, we're different in what we can bring to the table. We're different in the value we can bring to you. And we can build with that and trust us, and we can trust you to know we can get you into a successful opportunity. Because look, I mean, we're not trying to put somebody into a lease where in 6 months they're going to have to try to sub it out. I mean, we want everybody to be as successful as possible.
Well, and that's the thing. I think some of these relationships, what I've found with the new relationships, it's a little more difficult. We're not meeting face to face with people anymore, so it's very difficult. You can't read people when they're masked up and understand, read their expressions. And so it's been really tougher for us. It's been a lot of phone. It's been a lot of, less restaurant guys are engaging in Zoom conferences, but, it's just not that face-to-face personal touch, which is what we offer. More so than some of the larger companies. We try to offer the same infrastructure that you get with some of the larger firms, but we have a team of folks that are all working collaboratively to help them achieve their goals, and that personal touch is tough to get that across. So we'll see what happens. I mean, the bigger challenge I'm seeing is, like, restaurants, the hospitality industry carried the decline of retail in mostly in Lower Fairfield County, but also in West Hartford, and some of the more affluent communities where the retail mom and pop shops couldn't pay the rents as they increased. So the restaurants filled those voids, and the pandemic has destroyed retail and is really hurting the restaurants. And it's not, we're not sure where it's going to go, and it's created a lot of opportunity for some folks to get in. And it's sort of, the folks that were sort of struggling for years, it's sort of torn the Band-Aid off, maybe a little prematurely, on some of those older restaurants that haven't changed with the times. But I don't know what we're going to backfill with. I mean, there's no way to backfill old restaurant spaces that need, crazy amounts of renovations with more new restaurants without hurting the restaurants that are currently there. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens in that commercial market, and if the adjustment is going to be made on the landlord side, because we really haven't seen it that much in those good markets yet.
That's what the tenants are asking for.
Well, right, but they aren't seeing it yet. Those rent
right.
asks are
Yeah,
exactly where they are, where they were previously.
Prior,
I just
hopefully they can bend a little bit.
well, is it going to be they're either going to bend, or the rents are going to keep going up, and to compensate for the vacancies that they're going to have to carry.
Yeah.
And I don't know which is worse. I'm like, would I rather
They're still
pay
vacant.
20% more rent and have half the restaurants gone? Maybe,
Yeah.
it's
It's a tough question.
a tough question. Depends on where it is and what the space is. And
Yeah.
it's, we're going to find out. We just have to be there to understand what the client's needs are and the landlord's needs are, and try to
That's the
bridge
balance.
that gap and
That's
make
the
everybody
balance.
happy.
Because you are seeing a lot of the people who are saying, we want the year to figure it out, but we want to get in now.
Yeah.
And, so it's...
Yeah, and there's some deals out there, some vacancies that have been sitting a while where the landlords could afford to be real picky prior. Bring up the former Ash Creek Saloon / Bogey space at 2 Wilton Avenue.
Yeah.
And the landlord there has had offers and deals that he's turned down over the last 2 years because they weren't, the client wasn't going to improve the premises in the ways that he was hoping, and or the operator was just not up to snuff. The credit was not up to snuff. And I think that the pandemic has kind of taken away his, he's now open to tenants that he may not have wanted to be open to a year ago, which, again, that creates opportunity for folks that just couldn't get a foot in the door before. So, it's all different. Some of the big guys are just not bending. Some of the smaller guys are, but it really depends on the property on a case-by-case basis, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we will. We sure will.
Yeah.
Well, this is fun. I'm looking forward to getting this podcast going with you. I look forward to getting on the road, too. We're going to...
Yeah, so this is
into-
hopefully one of the last, well, hopefully for us, not for Justin. For us, the last ones we'll do here, we're going to try to go remote. And, I don't want to focus on the business side of things so much and the nitty gritty. I want to have fun with it. But I think that, it's about relationships and the backstory behind some of the restaurant operators in, the area that we know, and kind of the story behind the story of their experience getting their restaurants opened, and what the process was like for them coming to terms with being okay to start looking straight through, all those deals that people have that fall apart for some reason or another, to the day that you sign the lease or close on the property, the building, and how that anticipation is then quickly morphs to anxiety and like, how am I going to get this thing open, and just straight through all of that. So it's going to be real fun. We've got some really great people lined up, and that's kind of that's what the name of the podcast is.
Yeah,
it's based on all of those.
Such a nice guy.
Yeah, such a nice guy.
But yeah, I think bringing in those guests, getting firsthand, interactions with what people are going through, what people are seeing, and getting to see spaces too. It's exciting, especially with the pandemic, and kind of getting people tuned into something that everybody can relate to, because at the end of the day, everybody's still got to eat.
Yeah.
Everybody's still looking for food. Everybody's still looking for restaurants. And, if we can help bring some of those brands and some of those names.
Yeah, absolutely. Some of the restaurants, and then also on the landlord side, just kind of getting some of those guys, so we can understand that we're all in it together, I think,
right.
and see these folks more as people and not as corporations. I think it can only help.
Without a doubt.
So yeah, looking forward to it. I think it'll be a couple weeks from today. We'll have our first one lined up, and I think it's going to be exciting. I'm sort of excited about it.
Sort of.
Yeah. I mean, I was not thrilled about the whole idea going in. I don't really have a lot of time.
You don't?
No.
But when we get to pick your brain.
I know I enjoy talking.
Yeah, right.
And I really like the way my voice sounds in the headphones. So it's like, I don't generally like the sound of my own voice, but now I may just sit here after you go upstairs and just talk to myself for a few hours.
A little cup of tea. You got the fireplace here.
Yeah, I feel like it's
soothing.
like FDR.
Oh, man.
We go over the bridge to the Cape. I don't even know what the names of the bridges are, but it's like we go over. It's like, thanks, FDR.
Yeah.
The New Deal. Goodness. All right. Well, I guess until next time, you have any closing thoughts? You got to end it with such a nice guy, but we don't have a guest.
We don't have one yet.
No, but our producer over there, Justin, is such a nice guy.
He is such a nice guy. Such a nice
guy. Yeah, I guess we can leave it at that.
I think it's good for now.
Yeah.
Justin will be our first.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you, Steve. 12:44. Good timing.
Perfect timing.
All right.